Hey everyone, this is Gourav Chindlur. Welcome to the Tercept Podcast, where we interview industry leaders in AdTech and media. Today we have Greg MacDonald with us. Greg is the founder and CEO of Chelsea Strategies. Welcome to the podcast, Greg.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Can we start off with hearing a little bit about what got you into AdTech and media and a little bit about what Chelsea Strategies does?
Absolutely. So I've spent most of my career building partnerships from the buy side, and what I'm doing now is helping the sell side close the gap. It's a journey that started with Yahoo in Toronto, where I'm originally from, and then took me to California and then to New York, where I live now. And at Yahoo, I did a number of things over the many years that I was there, but spent a lot of time leading supply and data partnerships and saw a lot of evolution in the industry, initially from the business being a managed service and evolving into programmatic. And then over time, as programmatic has matured, launching formats like CTV, digital out of home, audio. And then 3 years ago in 2022, I founded Chelsea Strategies, and it's really helping SSPs and commerce media platforms sharpen how they engage with demand, whether that's winning direct partnerships, which a number of clients have, which I've helped a number of clients do, or just more partnerships by translating insights into revenue. It's really about that demand development, insights and services that goes with it to be impactful and help clients grow their businesses.
Fantastic. It's interesting how many fantastic ad tech professionals started off their careers at Yahoo. Right.
It really is. The diaspora is very wide, and it's such a great group of people, as anyone who's worked there or with Yahoo knows.
So true. So true. You've been doing this for a while, Greg. Do you see that demand side expectations have evolved dramatically over the years, especially given how the ecosystem has evolved with so many different ad formats, CTV coming in, privacy first kind of trends? Do you see a lot of changes in the way demand side is expecting?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, what hasn't changed is that advertising has always been about getting the right ad to the right user at the right time. But the tools that we have to do that have evolved, and the technology is evolving. So I would say probably one of the biggest things is that buyers used to really chase cheap impressions and cheap reach. And now one of the big shifts that's happening is they want much more proof of impact. So a bigger focus on business outcomes, more focus on transparency and control. And it shows up in a whole bunch of ways. The push for custom curation. Attention metrics have become really popular. Brand safety, well-lit supply paths are all really important. And, it looks like a number of different things across formats, right? Like CTV, buyers are really expecting TV level quality content, but digital level controls, which is a really exciting development that has caused CTV to explode in terms of growth. Online video, viewability, completion rates, and tying this back to planning and post-bid insights. Gaming is super popular, obviously, as we all have mobile phones. Non-intrusive formats and scale that goes across platforms and measuring brand impact are things that buyers look for a lot there. So fundamentally, across all of the different environments, there is a growing opportunity for platforms and partners to help buyers activate. They want smarter insights, they want data, they want to be able to anticipate needs. Buyers want their partners to anticipate their needs and help them fill them. And data is one of the really important ways they're doing that. Again, not just about the cheap reach of where it had started. Now it's much more about impact and measuring that impact using data.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. A couple of things that I keep hearing about is data transparency and top-notch reporting. Tell me how data transparency and reporting capabilities can really improve trust from the demand side when supply side is trying to engage them.
Yeah, transparency is what really earns you the next dollar, right? It helps prove that you belong on the plan and why you should belong on the plan. It helps tie that investment to the outcomes that the advertiser is looking for. So, I mean, it sort of seems like stating the obvious, but it's actually really critical, and it's something that wasn't as commonplace in the past and that is becoming much more common now. So again, the reporting helps you tie that investment to the outcome. That builds trust. It helps move you from being just a supply source, which, in the early days of programmatic, just having a vast amount of supply was important. That still matters. Scale still matters, but impact matters matters equally as much now. So, you want to be a strategic ally, and the data is what helps prove that that's the role that you're serving in the course of delivering an ad campaign. And then, supply path optimization has been a buzzword for a number of years now, but that transparency and the data insights really creates the stickiness so that as buyers and even sellers are thinking about different supply paths and what makes the most sense in a given situation, the transparency is what builds that clarity and the stickiness fundamentally of the supply paths and the partnerships that are chosen to deliver outcomes.
Makes sense. So demonstrate impact with data and prove it with the data.
Always. We have so much data. I mean, as advertising has become digital, there's so much out there, and the challenge is always making sure that we take that data and find the ways to deliver insight.
Fantastic. Makes so much sense. So demonstrate your impact by showing the data and prove it with the data, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. What are some common pitfalls, Greg, that you've come across when supply platforms are trying to engage with the demand side? And what are some key strategies they can employ to avoid some of these common pitfalls?
So I love this question because this is really where we operate. We're squarely in this space. And so the first thing I would say is that if your pitch sounds like everybody else's, you've already lost. Demand partners don't need just another supply source. They really need a partner. They want somebody who helps them solve real problems. So it sounds like I'm again stating the obvious, but you really need to find what are the mutual benefits and what is the benefit to your partner? What is the benefit to that demand partner? What are the gaps you can fill for them? How are you helping them grow your business? One of the most common things that I see with supply partners is they go and they explain how the supply side is going to grow because the demand came along. And of course, the demand side, that's not the reason they're going to engage. It's much more understanding what value is being brought to the table. So think about the outcomes. Think about what pain points you're solving for that demand partner, not just your platform capabilities or your roadmap, but really what solutions you're bringing to the table that will help that mutual growth of your partnership. And, bring the proof points. If you have case studies, that's really compelling and powerful. Think about performance benchmarks, again, the data. And then the other really big thing that I recommend to everybody is build 360-degree relationships with your partners. Not just having the one contact in the organization, but make sure that you're meeting with people across the organization, with the leadership, with the account management team, with the marketing folks if they've got them. Really build that partnership across the organization so that you are truly building a partnership and you're investing together. And that really helps accelerate the opportunities as you identify. It helps you find more opportunities and it helps you activate on them faster too.
Super interesting. So get your fundamentals right, about building partnerships, about demonstrating impact, etc. Right? So go back to the fundamentals and get the basics right.
Exactly. First things first, and don't take them for granted. They sound easy, but I can tell you many people don't do them right, and it's a missed opportunity and it slows you down.
So true. How should supply platforms tackle the key challenges around scale and quality when they're curating publisher inventory?
So scale without quality is just waste. I think it's just another way to say that. So again, think about that quality. Buyers do need the scale, but they really want to have the quality. And this is where programmatic really shines, right? That this is a good job for a machine to go find the needles in the haystack, whether it's a bidder going and navigating through it, or an analyst trying to uncover the opportunities of what's working within a reporting set. So really lean into the data, use the data to define quality. And that quality, depending on the buyer's goals, might be something like viewability or completion rates or user engagement or, brand safety is often very, very important there. So any number of metrics, usually there's more than one, but really use the data to define that quality and to make sure that you're achieving it, and be intentional. Curate packages that meet those goals. And that can be anything, some of the ones that I mentioned just now, or high conversion, or CTV only, or different kinds of premium content. But there's always trade-offs, right? Be transparent about what those trade-offs are. I think we've prioritized this, but it means there's going to be a little less of that, whether it's a little bit less scale or a little bit higher price or whatever the case is. the buyer can understand that there's going to be trade-offs, but they really want to know what they're choosing, and they may choose something. They will be intentional about which trade-offs they're choosing. So buyers really like that choice, and it's important to present them with clear choices, but let the choice be theirs, along with a recommendation of what you think might work best based on your understanding. So be clear on those goals, but make sure that you're working towards them together.
So true, so true. And programmatic gives plenty of opportunity for some of these
things. It really
things.
Does.
And in so different ways compared to direct, right? So programmatic just it opens up so much opportunity in this space.
It really does. And it's attracted a whole group of people who love that performance, who love that real-time opportunity to be able to do an optimization and look a few hours later and see how it worked and if it worked and, what do we do more of? I think that's something that's pretty cool about this space.
What role does publisher level data play in effective curation, Greg? Things like monetization performance, audience behavior, identity. What impact do some of these things play at a publisher level when you're creating inventory?
So publisher level data is critical. If you don't understand what's happening at the publisher level, you're really not curating, you're just sort of guessing. And so the publisher level data helps you build smarter inventory packages. It helps you focus on the performance and align those things to the buyer goals. And it helps show where the high value audiences are actually spending time and engaging. And those are the high value audiences to you, like those who's valuable to one buyer is going to be different to another. And so the publisher is the one who really understands who those audiences are on their page and how to align them to a particular buyer and their goals. But what's really interesting, and on the one hand, it makes sense. On the other hand, it's really quite interesting that, it's a win-win. When you match the right audiences with the right buyers, it creates a better user experience on the page. It makes more money for the publisher, and it creates a better it creates better performance for the advertiser. So it's really, the incentives are actually quite well aligned with each other to get it right, because everybody wins when you do. And of course, I mentioned supply path optimization earlier. It really supports those SPO conversations because it helps you focus on what works and avoid things that don't make sense for an advertiser and maximize your working dollars.
Right, makes total sense. How do you see some of these evolving tools like Tercept's unified reporting and similar tools influencing how publishers are selected and showcased in this space, Greg?
So I think this is a really important thing, like unified reporting. Like I said, I've seen this in my career. It is really hard to get right, but it's really not just analytics. It started as sort of a dashboard tool, but now it's your pitch deck. It's your proof points. It's, your pass that gets you to the buyer's shortlist. So it's really, really important, and it takes the raw data, of which we have so much in programmatic. I mean, it's a pro and a con, because you have so much of it, but you have to be able to act on it. So these tools are critical to being able to get there. So turning that raw data into an actionable narrative and into the right curated marketplaces and PMPs that will make sense for your buyers and that show why your premium deal should be on the plan. So, this ecosystem is really, there's a lot of the programmatic ecosystem. It's a very crowded space because it's a very powerful thing. Data and the insights in particular really become the differentiators, and they build on the trust that we've talked about, and they build on the performance for the advertiser and the monetization for the publisher and the user experience. So it's really, they're key to fundamentally creating and accelerating the momentum in our industry, because when it's done right, it matters and has upside for everybody.
So true, so true. And oftentimes I've seen companies just focus on the productivity aspect when you're looking at unified reporting, and maybe things like getting more accuracy in data and eliminating missed opportunities and things like that. But like you're saying, there's so much more with respect to deeper insights, getting really into auction dynamics, understanding bitstream data, getting your forecasting right, doing a lot of A/B testing. There's so much that can be done with a unified reporting analytics platform that it can be a real game changer.
It really can. And I mean, this is, your team must spend a lot of time partnering with your clients and helping them understand it. And you see you have the benefit of working with multiple clients. I mean, I do as well. And it's kind of a cool thing that we bring to the table to say, here's what I've seen work in other instances, or let me tell you what the best practice is, because, you're using your use case, but you're approaching this from one perspective, but we can give you a more holistic view of the opportunity across the market and across multiple clients and similar companies like yours, and here's what will get you there faster. And that's one of the things I love about my job, and I have to think that is something that happens for your team too.
Absolutely. You hit the nail there. Are there any specific verticals or formats where mid-sized or smaller supply platforms can really excel, punch above their weight class, and really build those demand partnerships?
Absolutely, because what's really important here is having the right signal in the right context. Again, right ad to the right user at the right time. And so, yes, the scale matters, but you don't need infinite scale. You really just need to be able to match that supply and demand in a really smart way. So I think this comes to life when you talk about niche verticals with a lot of intent: automotive, pharmaceuticals, travel, luxury, where the contextual relevance and the content adjacency really, really matters and can move the needle. In retail media and commerce media, smaller platforms with access to SKU level data or shopper intent can be really unique. So those data sets are large, but if you're really focused on them, as a solution, it's really quite powerful, and you don't need to have the endless scale of supply to go activate on it. And high impact and non-standard formats are also really compelling. There's a lot of solutions in market for some really, really cool ad units in CTV and in audio and across everywhere, honestly. So those things, again, the solution is really precise, and so the execution matters, but again, you don't need the endless scale to make it work. And then the other one, are where the audiences are just smaller. So, regional or cultural scale. French Canada is one I've encountered a bunch of times in my career. Or multicultural content. It's a little bit more, the scale is just more limited. But being able to really, if you are focused and targeted in those places, and there are mid-sized companies that specialize in exactly that way, if those are your audiences, they are the right partners for you, and that's really important.
Very insightful. How do you see the role of robust analytics and data infrastructure evolving for the supply side over the next few years?
Robust analytics is how deals are getting done. I can tell you that, that's always been my approach, but it's a lot of clients come to me and they say, oh, people, and we just need someone to broker a relationship. And, I can tell you, and I tell all of them, I'm like, can I get you the meeting faster? Maybe, but that doesn't matter. If you show up, if you go on a date and you're not ready you don't have a good plan, you don't have the right outfit and the right activities planned, you're not going to win the deal, right? You're not going to get another date. And when we go to do partnerships with demand, you really need to, again, show how this is going to be beneficial to the demand partner, and so that so that you can get that next date and you can build that partnership. So the data is absolutely critical. The data is how you go and get ready and show that opportunity and that upside and to go win those deals. It's something that not only can you look at it, we've always looked at it historically, what happened in the past, and you obviously want to look at what happened in the past, but you want to think about, be predictive on what's going to happen in the future. And this is where AI starts to become really powerful, because it can look at what happened historically, but start to extrapolate in a really compelling way what we can anticipate going forward. So that makes everything work better, and that makes, again, the data the kind of almost the secret ingredient for what's going to power the future of our industry and our opportunities. I would say that SSPs in particular are thinking about it in terms of curation, in terms of decisioning, in terms of insights. Yeah, I guess the insights is really the layer that's starting to shine right now. And I think that decisioning is something that's going to really power the future.
So true. Adding to that, if you look at some of the key trends that's really shaping our industry here, right? If you look at regulatory changes that are coming in, if you look at the way user and buyer behavior is constantly changing in a privacy first kind of an environment that we are we've been in and will continue to be in for the next few years. And with the ever evolving industry and the challenges around maximizing yield, right? So if you look at some of these trends, it becomes extremely critical to have robust data infrastructure so that you can get everything organized and you're ready for some of these things that are going to be hitting us over the next few years.
Yeah, no, I think we haven't spent a lot of time talking about privacy, but that is such a good example of where there's so many different aspects to the data and how it marries up in a privacy first environment. And that's another really good example of why it's so critical. So I think that's a great call out.
Amazing. To wrap things up, Greg, as someone who's been advising both the buy side as well as the sell side for a while now, what advice would you give to both the buy side and the sell side to improve collaboration?
So I would say in one word, transparency, or two words, transparency and collaboration. When buyers and sellers align on insights, the whole ecosystem moves faster. So from the buy side, like bring your goals to the table early, be transparent about them, be clear about what KPIs and constraints you're working with, because the more context you give, the more value you'll be able to get. And from the sell side, share what's actually working, look at the performance data, think about the audience behavior, or even maybe the creative insights can be pretty compelling, honestly, because when you hold back, you end up looking replaceable, but when you partner, again, the whole ecosystem gets stronger.
Amazing. Well, that's a wrap, Greg. Thank you so much for your time and amazing insights into how supply platforms and the sell side can really collaborate and build partnerships on the demand side. I'm sure this would be an extremely interesting podcast for our audience. Thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to further interactions.
All right. Thanks so much, Gaurav. Likewise.